Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, let's just be real for a second and start with something a little bit uncomfortable. You've probably heard of the 50-30-20 budgeting rule, right? You might have even sat down, looked at your own bank accounts, crunched the numbers, and then felt that all too familiar drop in your stomach. Because you suddenly realized your essential living costs, your basic, everyday needs, are definitely not sitting neatly at 50% of your income. And man, it can feel like a punch to the gut when you're trying so hard to do the right thing, only to feel like standard financial advice just doesn't fit your actual life.
So I've got to ask you directly, are your needs taking up more than 50% of your income? Because honestly, for a whole lot of people, their baseline needs are actually sitting at 65%, maybe 70%, maybe even higher. And you might be sitting there thinking, great, just another set of rules I literally can't follow. But hey, I hear you. Exceeding that 50% threshold is incredibly common right now. I mean, rent is insanely expensive, and groceries cost noticeably more than they did just a couple of years ago. The numbers simply don't always cooperate with the rules.
But here is what I really absolutely need you to understand today. Exceeding the 50% threshold, it is not a character flaw. It's a math problem. And guess what? Math problems have solutions. We are not going to sit here and just tell you to cut out your morning latte. I promise you that. By the end of this explainer, you are going to have a clear step-by-step playbook with specific levers you can actually pull to get that math moving in the right direction. Okay, let's dive into this. Diagnosis: understanding the root causes.
Before we try to fix absolutely anything, we really have to treat this like a medical diagnosis. We need to figure out exactly why that needs bucket is overflowing in the first place, you know? There are generally 3 root causes for this, and identifying which one applies to you kind of changes everything about the solution. Root cause number 1. Your income is simply too low for your cost of living. Your rent, your car, your utilities, maybe none of them are totally outrageous on their own, but stacked together they eat way more than half your take-home pay. It's just a gap between income and reality. Root cause number 2. You've misclassified wants as needs, and this one is sneaky. Things like gym memberships or upgraded phone plans mentally get filed under needs and they quietly inflate your baseline. And finally, root cause number 3. A sudden life event shifted the math. A medical bill, a job loss, maybe a new baby. Something major changed and your budget just hasn't quite caught up yet. Take a second and ask yourself right now, which of these sounds the most like your situation?
So let's get into it. Step 1. The 20-minute honest audit.
Look, I know nobody wants to look at their actual bank statements. It is terrifying. But putting the numbers down on paper actively shrinks the financial monster hiding in your closet. Seriously, the anxiety is almost always worse than the reality. You need to pull up your last 2 months of statements and ruthlessly, I mean ruthlessly, sort every single expense into just 2 columns. True needs are things like rent or a mortgage, basic groceries, electricity, water, internet for work, transportation to your job, health insurance, and minimum debt payments. And that is it. Everything else, the streaming services, the gym, the coffee runs, the subscription boxes, that all goes into the everything else column. If stripping all those extra things away drops your needs below 50%, fantastic. You just have a budgeting issue to fix.
Step 2. Attack the biggest fixed costs first.
Now, if your true needs column is still genuinely over 50% even after that ruthless audit, then you have a structural issue. And let me be clear, no amount of skipping coffee is going to fix a structural deficit. So the crucial point is this. Small savings on small things add up very slowly, but big savings on big things, that adds up incredibly fast. Canceling a streaming service might save you, what, $15 a month? But tackling major expenses can save you hundreds of dollars every single month, which completely changes your entire financial landscape.
So we need to go after what we call the big 3. First up is housing. It's the hardest thing to change, for sure, but it has the absolute highest impact. If you rent, can you negotiate with your landlord? Can you temporarily take on a roommate? If you own, is refinancing an option? Or, and this is the hardest question of all, is your current home simply too expensive for your income right now? Second is transportation. Look at refinancing an auto loan for a lower rate. If you have 2 cars, could you temporarily survive with one? Can you jump on public transit a few days a week to save on gas and wear and tear? And third is debt minimums. Minimum payments are technically a need, yes, but high interest just bleeds you dry. If you're hit with 20% credit card interest, exploring a 0% balance transfer can drastically reduce how much money you're losing to interest. It gives you actual, real breathing room.
Step 3. Temporarily restructure the 50-30-20 rule.
Let's say you've done the audit, you've fiercely attacked those fixed costs, but your needs are still sitting right around 58%. Well, it's time to consciously, temporarily restructure the rules. The standard 50-30-20 is a target, it is not a life sentence. And this brilliantly illustrates our next move. We shift to a rebuild ratio. That's 60% for needs,
20% for wants and 20% for savings. See what we did there? We trimmed the wants down from 30 to 20 to reflect the reality of the season you're in. But that 20% savings slice, oh, that is absolutely not negotiable. Even if the total dollar amount is smaller right now, you have to keep that savings habit alive. An emergency fund is literally the only thing that keeps a short-term problem from spiraling into a long-term debt nightmare.
But remember, this ratio is a temporary season. You are actively managing your finances now, which means every 90 days, you sit down and review this. Did you get a raise at work? Did you pay off a small, nagging debt? Can you nudge that needs percentage down just a tiny bit and push wants or savings back up? Every 90 days, you check your progress and adjust.
Step 4, grow the other side of the equation.
This is where we play the long game, because here is the undeniable truth about budgeting. Cutting expenses has a floor. Eventually, you literally can't cut anymore. But growing your income, the numerator in this whole equation, doesn't have a ceiling. Let's move to and see how this builds. You've basically got 3 progressive paths to get there. Path 1, negotiate your current salary. If your performance is solid and you haven't asked for a bump in over a year, bring your data and have that conversation. Path 2, build a targeted side income. Notice I said targeted. I am not talking about an 80-hour-a-week hustle culture grind. Just pick one specific thing, freelancing a skill, selling some items, just to close a specific dollar gap. Path 3, upskill for a higher earning role. This permanently moves the dial for you. Figure out what role you actually want, what it pays, and what specific skills you need to get there. You don't have to do all 3 of these, but you should absolutely pick at least one to start generating some real upward momentum.
Real quick before we wrap up, I want to touch on the mindset required for all of this. It is so easy to feel like you are behind, especially when housing and healthcare costs have massively outpaced wages for decades. The math genuinely is harder today. That is a real structural fact. But by doing this audit, by facing your numbers head on, you are giving yourself a massive advantage over everyone who is just avoiding it. You are not behind. You are simply right in the middle of the process.
So I leave you with this thought. We've outlined the entire playbook. Audit your true needs, attack your big fixed costs, temporarily restructure your ratio, and grow your income. The path is right there in front of you. Will you let the math defeat you, or will you work the process? Take that first step today. Start that 20-minute audit and take back control of your equation. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll see you next time.